Okay, so we are talking about the uncovering phase, the first phase of forgiveness. So, like I said in the last video, the very first phase is the uncovering phase, which is where we go through and we look at all of the things that came from or happened because of the situation that you want to forgive for. Okay, so for me, it was the putting myself in the same position over and over again. So the very first thing that I would do is I would look at, how did this make me feel? Okay, so specifically for me, um, putting myself in the same situation over and over again for many, many years, all I could ever think was, I'm the common denominator. Okay, so all of everything that I went through, I blamed myself. I blamed myself no matter what it was. I blamed myself because I put myself in that position. Okay, I didn't see the red flags, or I ignored the red flags. I thought too highly of a person. I gave too many chances, whatever it may be. It made me feel like I was the one that was doing it to myself. Okay, and then to further that, I just don't want to let it. To further that, when I was in the intensive outpatient program in the military, right before I was medically retired, I was introduced to chaos theory, and this angered me a lot. So, chaos theory is basically that because of the fact that you have spent a lot of your life in trauma, you tend to seek out situations that are chaotic because chaos feels more comfortable. And the very first thing that came to my mind was, so you're telling me I did all of that to myself? And I got very angry. Um, and I really started to dislike myself. I started to dislike my people pleasing characteristics. I started to dislike the fact that I was malleable. I disliked the fact that I was an easy target. These are things I thought about myself. Like, I was manipulative, easily manipulated. Or like naive, or just plain stupid. Like, these are the things that I would tell myself. So I knew it was causing me a psychological trigger. Yeah, that's what I'm trigger. Because every time I would get in one of those relationships, or I'd get out of one of those relationships, I would tell myself, never doing that again, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd end up, like, not even 2 weeks later, back in the same exact situation. Because I wasn't actually giving myself time to heal. I wasn't actually trying to heal. I was just stuffing everything. Okay? So, this is all a part of my uncovering phase, by the way. These are all things that I'm going to be self-aware about as I'm going through the uncovering phase. Okay, so then the next thing I want to ask myself is, how did this affect my interpersonal relationships? Not necessarily just familial relationships or significant others. It also includes your friends and how you interact with strangers. Okay, so how did whatever you went through affect your interpersonal relationships? For me, it always led to the exact same thing, no matter what. Even my leaving Brad, it all ended the exact same way. I woke up one day and realized I was being used and walked out the door. Every single time. Never even gave him a chance to explain, nothing. I just walked out the door the second I realized I was being used. Sometimes it took me like a week. Sometimes it took me 7 years. So it just depends on, like, the situation and how much my head was buried in the sand. And again, like, these would be things that I am thinking about while I am going through the uncovering phase. Okay, so I put myself in these positions over and over and over again for a reason. But at the time, I couldn't understand that reason. I just blamed myself. I blamed myself for everything, even things that weren't my fault. 444. Literally, even things that weren't my fault. How can you possibly blame yourself for the way somebody else thinks about you? That's not, you don't have any, like, say in what someone thinks about you. How could you possibly be at fault? So, and then I'm going to look at how has this interfered with my growth, my evolution, whether it be spiritual or mental or emotional, or even intellectual, because, intellectual evolution is a thing too. Yeah. So how did it affect my evolution? And up until this very last one, man, it wasn't like I was getting the message. It seemed like I could never get it right. And for that, I kicked myself in the butt. So when I finally got to a point where I was able to say, oh, now I understand, that it was 40 years later. So, with the uncovering phase, okay, so one of the other things that you want to ask yourself is, what has this done to my self-esteem? For me, every time I got out of one of those bad relationships, oh my gosh, my self-esteem was so low. And it just kept getting worse. And every time I'd find myself in one of these situations, like, the self-worth would go way down. I would try to stuff myself inside of a box to make it work. I would try to do everything in my power. I'd give chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. And I wasn't respecting myself. And this is an important part here, guys. When I'm looking at this uncovering phase, I'm looking at the fact that I didn't respect myself. I didn't love myself. I spent so much time trying to find that external source that was going to make me feel better that I totally lost connection with the only love that truly matters. The love that's inside of your temple. Your self-love and your creator love. Okay? And these two are super important, because without self-love, you can't find your creator love, because you don't believe enough in yourself to turn inward. You're too afraid to sit in the silence. You're too nervous to stand still. Once you find that self-love, that opens up a humongous door, guys. Humongous. And it's so big, you can walk right through, no ducking, no side stepping. It doesn't matter. That door is like 50 feet wide. Because when you love yourself, you're going to need a 50-foot wide door to fit your heart space through it. Okay? So, I hope the uncovering phase makes sense. If you have any questions, post them in the comments.